exploited by the nation's most prosperous and most anti-union employer. But despite the demeaning treatment they endured, the job's opportunity for travel, the company's reputation for quality service, even the impeccable uniforms that porters had to wear, gave porters envied status in the African American community. They ranked on a social par with teachers and even doctors and lawyers. Porters observed the privileged travelers, the famous, the wealthy, the accomplished. They absorbed some of their values. Porters vowed to provide a better life for their own children and recognized that education was the key. They self-educated as they crisscrossed America by reading discarded newspapers and magazines. They saved every dime and fundamentally helped build the black middle class, becoming homeowners and fostering the education and rise of the black professional classes in their offspring. Obviously, leaders emerged. The Brotherhood of Pullman Porters became the first African-American labor union to get a collective bargaining agreement with a major corporation, a win that helped lay the foundation for the future civil rights era. The Porters' history is worth remembering.
I'm mighty nervous. Who's that there? Ever seen him? Darn Pullman Porters spying on us all the time. Brother, I can't lose this job. Me and my wife just bought us a little house. Got 3 kids to raise. We've been trying to form a union for so long. I ain't hopeful about this. But Pullman works us like slaves. I ain't been home in 2 months. Barely get 3 hours of sleep a day. Trying to make them white folks happy. Talking about George. Shine my shoes. George. Change that baby. George. Make up my bed. George. Give me a drink. My name ain't George. You don't get tired of them calling us George all the time? Like George Pullman owns us. Can't even say nothing back if you wanted to. Gotta shuck and jive like an old Tom if you want that tip. Because you can't survive on what they pay us. I like this job, but it ain't fair how they work us.
In 1925, 500 porters packed the sweltering auditorium of the Elk Lodge in Chicago. At the podium, operator error. At the podium, you see Asa Phillip Randolph, dressed in camouflage. Yes, camouflage. For despite his apparel, A. Phillip was no mild-mannered businessman. He was actually an unyielding radical, a socialist, a rabble-rouser, and fearless strategist. Nothing in this man's wardrobe would give you a clue that you were about to be hit by a train of determination. If you do not know, A. Phillip Randolph went nose to nose with 3 presidents and won. He drove the ending of racial discrimination in World War II defense industry employment under President Roosevelt. He drove the ending of segregation in the military under Truman. He kept pressure on the Kennedy-Johnson administration until civil rights legislation was passed. His words reveal his true nature.
Freedom is never given, it is won. Nothing counts but pressure. Pressure, and still more pressure through broad, organized, aggressive mass action.
Born in Florida in 1889, A. Phillip Randolph had hardworking parents who promoted learning. They insisted on racial self-respect regardless of cost. It was his parents' actions rather than words that stuck with Randolph. In 1899, when warned that a white mob was planning to lynch a black man jailed on charges of molesting a white woman, Asa's preacher father, James, set his wife on a chair on the front porch with a shotgun to protect their sons, and with his friends he formed an armed guard around the jail, standing down the lynch mob. Asa was 10 years old at the time.
This was the demonstration of the value of unity on the part of a people who are the victims of racial hatred and persecution. Now, if you stand firm and hold your ground, in the long run, you will win.
As a socialist, Randolph felt that people could only be free if not subject to economic deprivation. He emphasized the importance of collective action as a way for black people to gain legal and economic equality. In 1925, he organized and led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters.
For a dozen years, the Porters waged two significant and ultimately successful battles. First, to eliminate the illegal company union, and to win recognition from the initially non-supportive AFL. And then in 1937, the Brotherhood finally struck a pact with the Pullman Company, the first such achievement of its kind between a major black union and a corporation.
The importance of their victory cannot be minimized. No labor leadership has faced greater odds or won a greater victory. Later, Randolph, with his protege, Bayard Rustin, formed an important alliance with Martin Luther King Jr., organizing many actions opposing segregation. Randolph finally realized his vision for March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. The rally is considered the high point of the civil rights movement. Within a year, it led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act, and in 1965, the Voting Rights Act. Among his many honors, Randolph received the Presidential Medal of Honor, wearing his usual subdued business suit.